This is a stimulus update and daily news report. Got some major updates to share with you. After the big bill has been signed, President Biden preparing new executive actions. I'll let you know what's going on there. And Mitch McConnell admits that the Senate is probably going to be controlled by the Democrats in the 2022 election, which could mean more stimulus provisions to the American people, including Bernie Sanders trying to push a new proposal of $3,600 tax credits, which could go out to millions of Americans. And when it comes to stimulus, looks like almost half the states are giving out stimulus checks or stimulus provisions of some sort. I'll let you know the latest, how the $1,000 checks, which are going out to families, $257 going out to kids for back to school, and a few other provisions there. Plus, we'll hear from Pete Buttigieg, who could be the new potential 2024 candidate to replace President Biden. I'll let you know what he says about what's going on, and I'll give you some other more important updates as well. Hope you're having a wonderful weekend. If you appreciate the fact-based, fast-paced updates, hit the like button down below, and I'm giving $200 checks to my subscribers. Details down in the description below, how to sign up for that. So Mitch McConnell says Republicans may not win Senate control, citing candidate qualities. So more specifically, what he said is, I think there's probably a greater likelihood the House flips than the Senate. Senate races are just different. Candidate quality has a lot to do with the outcome. So the leader of the Senate basically says that the Senate is probably going to maintain or go to the Democrats in maintaining control because the candidate quality, meaning that the Republican senators, I guess, are not good enough to win the races in the Senate. This is according to Mitch McConnell, and basically thinks that the House is going to flip over to the Republicans, but the Democrats maintain control in the Senate. What does that mean moving forward? Well, if it is that way, it's going to be gridlock, and there's probably going to have to be different ways to pass bills. So after signing the climate bill, Biden prepares more actions to cut emissions. So not just emissions, but a few other things. So after signing the big Inflation Reduction Act, it's not enough to, he gave him a little boost. His poll numbers did go up. He did have a few wins, but I don't think it's enough in order for the Democrats to win in the 2022 midterm elections. There's probably going to be a wave of stimulus provisions, executive actions. It might take too long to pass through Congress, so it looks like President Biden going to do it on his own in terms of giving out more stimulus provisions. Could be some sort of check, could be student loan forgiveness, Social Security, $2,400 boost. There could be some type of other stimulus check provision in there, but probably going to have a lot more before the midterm elections. Bernie Sanders, could $3,600 child tax credit return? Here's what Bernie Sanders is proposing. So what he said is, I will be introducing an amendment to expand $300 a month child tax credit for the next 5 years, paid for by restoring the top corporate tax rate from 21% to 28%. So basically, Bernie Sanders wants to return that $300 and $250 a month child tax credit, which could equal up to $3,600 per year per kid, depending on the age, and paid for by the by corporations paying a higher tax rate. So Bernie Sanders tried to put this in the big bill. He's not giving up on it though. And if it was up to Bernie Sanders, there would be a lot more stimulus checks and a lot more stimulus provisions going out. But at this point, stimulus update, almost half of the states are providing stimulus checks or other relief is yours. So not just on a state-by-state basis, but also county, city, and town basis. There's different types of stimulus checks, stimulus provisions, but is your state on that list? Well, I'm going to go over the latest. So if you like how I give you the latest stimulus checks that are coming out, or stimulus check articles, let you know which provisions, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I just like to give you the facts, let you know which states are doing what, how to qualify, who gets it. So for example, latest one here, stimulus update, Connecticut, to give families $257.87 per child in back-to-school relief. So yeah, this was just announced, and this one-time payment is going to more than 15,000 low-income households as a way to alleviate the toll of inflation in back-to-school shopping for many families. So yeah, this is that's going on in Connecticut. Connecticut, quite a few different types of stimulus provisions that's separate from the child tax credit. Connecticut also has the $250 child tax credit, and then thousands of Americans to get new $1,000 in direct payments from $14.7 million pot, and the timing is in line with key date. So this is going on in Washington, D.C. So, this is going to help out families as well. All right, kids across the country's capital are set to return to the classroom on August 29th, and payments will be sent to Americans who are enrolled in the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families program. And families of 4 can make no more than $870 a month in order to qualify for the benefits. And the mayor, Muriel Bowser, told reporters on August 18th that there are no strings attached. So looks like up to a lot of money could go out to these families to help out with food, getting back to school, things like that. So that's going on there in Washington, D.C. And then second taxpayer refund begins hitting bank accounts. So this is going on in Indiana. $200 are going to be sent out in late August. These are automatic checks. If you already got one in Indiana, the $200 checks are supposed to come late August, and deposits are supposed to start around August 24th, which is, I believe, Monday, I think. I think that's Monday or sometime next week. So Indiana, $200 checks going out then. And and if you like how I get straight to the point, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. And let's get on to Pete Buttigieg. So Pete Buttigieg leads Joe Biden in key 2024 primary state, according to polls. So Pete Buttigieg, who is the transportation secretary, he supposedly could be the next presidential candidate to take over President Biden, because President Biden, despite his sort of growing poll numbers, it may not be enough to convince the American people to give him another shot in 2024. And this key primary state is New Hampshire at the moment, but things are changing on a regular basis. At this point, even asked if he's going to be or run for president, everyone's just focused on the 2022 midterm elections. But if Democrats are able to maintain control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency, there could be more stimulus checks, more provisions, especially if an official recession is announced and it is official. Then there could be more checks that way. Take a look at what Pete Buttigieg has to say about a few different topics.
How does the Biden administration get past the relentless accusations and alarmism from the right? The man with that answer is joining us now. Pete Buttigieg, President Biden's Secretary of Transportation. Mr. Secretary, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having me on, and thanks for sharing that footage from the 50s. That's fascinating.
Well, we're fascinated by what has happened in America and what is coming to pass. But I got to ask you, because you've been kind of like the one-man band, or at least the loudest and most effective one-man band, in talking to the right, which has been highly resistant to renewables and electric vehicles. Do you think you are going to be able to convince the viewers of Fox News that what is happening here, what the Biden administration would like to do, and indeed what the country must do in this century, is move towards renewables? Do you think anyone is listening to the message that you have been offering on Fox News?
I think so. Look, obviously you have a political apparatus, an opinion apparatus of commentators, politicians trying to keep everything the same, trying to keep electric vehicles more expensive than they have to be, trying to keep people locked into yesterday's energy. But I think people are looking toward the future and looking for solutions. And, at a certain point, there's going to be a disconnect between these politicians and opinion hosts who, will go on a segment or a program like that, trying to get everybody to think that, an electric vehicle in this country starts at $66,000 when, those same viewers are going to watch the commercials during the commercial breaks and see what the prices are. And now, what they won't see is that we're fighting to get those prices lower, unless somebody like me is out there to talk about this. That's part of why, for example, the Inflation Reduction Act is going to benefit so many Americans. We're the ones fighting to make EVs cheaper, because we know if we make them more affordable for more Americans, then more Americans can save at the pump. And of course, that's also going to help us build up a U.S.-made EV industry with American jobs, American soil, and American workers all while helping us to fight climate change. I'm under no illusions that everybody here in Washington is coming to this conversation in good faith. But I'm also under no illusions that people who don't already agree with us are going to have any idea what our message is if we don't go out there and talk about it to anyone who will listen.
Yeah, it's by no means no one is anyone trying to shame you for talking to Fox News or talking to Republicans, because that's part of the job, right? But it seems like you're battling something more than just the economics of this. This feels like a cultural battle as much as anything else. So much of the American myth making revolves around the open road and the gas-powered engine. You know, those highway videos from the 1950s. Some people are still very much entrenched in that sort of thinking about what kind of country this is. And I wonder how you think you combat that, right? People want to hold on to this past of America that is no longer our present and certainly isn't going to be our future. But how do you get them to let go of what you call, I think perhaps euphemistically, the status quo? How do you think about your work in that vein?
Yeah, I think the most important thing to remember is if we want to be true to a tradition, we got to remember that tradition was about looking to the future. In other words, the best things about our past had to do with getting out of the past. And the worst things about our past are things we don't have to repeat. So when we're thinking about how not just roads, but transportation in general should look going into the 2020s, 30s, 40s, making it work by the 2050s in a whole new way, it's not going to meet the needs of this country to have the mentality of the 1950s. We know better. In some ways we knew better then, but we definitely know better now when it comes to climate, when it comes to how our cities are laid out. Of course, there's a history to it. There's a romance to it. And some of that should be honored. Some of that will always be with us. The open road trips, always going to be an important part of what it is to live in America. But we also need to create more options for people, more opportunities for people, whether you live in a big city or a smaller community, with, for example, making it safer and easier to get around with public transit or on foot on a bike, so that whether you own a car or not, you don't always have to drag 2 tons of metal with you everywhere that you go. This is also an issue of equity. We've got to make sure that we have ways of organizing our infrastructure for the future that don't exclude people, or worse, divide or segregate, something that we've seen a lot of in this country, but there's no reason we have to do it all over again just because that's how things worked in the past.
I wonder politically how this is, how you guys are thinking about this moment, because it's obviously a huge piece of legislation for the president. And we've seen some increasingly positive numbers in the midterm races, or at least in the projections about the midterm races. I think there is a polling out today that has Democrats up by 4%, generally speaking, broadly in the Senate races that are happening this November. We have some Senate seats that look like they could go onto the Democratic side of the ledger. Raphael Warnock could keep his seat. Mark Kelly, John Fetterman in Pennsylvania, Mandela Barnes in Wisconsin. Do you think this plays, does the IRA, does all of this play a role, or is it gas prices? I ask you because you're the transportation secretary and you have to think about gas prices. I mean, how much is this the sort of lofty proposition of a new future vis-a-vis the Biden administration? And how much of this is just about people saying, oh, my gas is $3 a gallon, not $6?
I think people are looking around at how their lives are different, how they are shaped by forces around the world and political decisions made in Washington. That's one of the reasons gas prices is something that's on everybody's mind. Obviously, gas prices aren't controlled by any individual policymaker in Washington, but they're part of what it's like to live in the American economy, and they hold, Americans hold those in charge responsible for the overall conditions. And to some extent, we've leaned into that. The president took a lot of steps to help stabilize gas prices. Not that, he controls them, but things like releasing the oil from the oil reserve was designed to bring some relief and breathing room and stability. And I think that's contributed to this fall in gas prices. I think what's going to be very important in talking about the Inflation Reduction Act, and for that matter, the bipartisan infrastructure law that we're so excited to be implementing in my department, is not to get so hung up on talking about the legislative mechanism or the finer points of the policy, and really focus on the difference difference it's actually going to make. I mean, look at the Inflation Reduction Act, for example. You know, part of what that contains is lower prescription drug prices, and most people are on board with that. Think we should have done it a long time ago. It really was kind of the American people, the president, and Democratic Senate and House members on one side of this policy issue, Big Pharma and Republican Senate and House members on the other. But that's not how the American people lined up. I saw somewhere, I think something like 70% of Republicans out around the country think it's a good idea to let Medicare negotiate prescription drug prices, even if it got 0% support among Republican members of the House or the Senate when the vote came up. So talking about the specific thing that's going to make a difference in your life, whether it's a more affordable electric vehicle, whether it's more affordable prescription drugs, whether it's the tax credits that are going to help you make your house more energy efficient and save on your energy bills, or the fact that, you know, right now, we are now able to announce improvements to ports, improvements to roads and bridges in neighborhoods around America, a whole new round of grants that we just rolled out that are going to benefit everything from airports to pedestrian crossings that people are feeling. And that's where I think we need to keep the focus.
Well,
what are your thoughts on Pete Buttigieg? Is he presidential material? Let me know your thoughts. What do you think about a few other things that he said there? And that is all the news that I have for you today to hopefully brighten your day a bit. Here's my daughter Bella's tip of the day.
Hey, this is Bella. This is tip of the day. Did you notice that we're at a hotel now? We wanted to surprise you. So today, I wanted to tell you one thing that you should know. You have to learn. If you don't learn, then you won't be a better person or grow up or anything. So you have to learn by experiences. That was all I wanted to tell you. Be safe, be good, and I'll see you in the next tip of the day.
Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate all of your support. Today, we are going to the beach. Have a nice family day. We're going to go surfing together. Hopefully the conditions are good enough, and hopefully you have a great day as well. If you want to check out any of my other videos on my other channels, you can click right up here, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Be safe. Thank you for watching.